Yay! Hi everyone, it's Lori with Artrageous. We're super excited that you've decided to join us today for our day 2 of fighting isolation with inspiration, and we're going to do an art class. So a couple of things that I wanted to tell you. One, it's like snowing outside, like what's up with that? 2 is that I wore my very best favorite artist shirt today in honor of this amazing art class. So get a close-up of that. Pretty awesome, right? Okay, and 3 is if you do the art class and you do the art, make sure that you post it on our Facebook page. We'd love to see it. And I don't know if you guys know this, but we do have a group called Artrageous Arts Community where everyone can post whatever they're working on at any point. So we're really excited about today, and drum roll please. We'd like to introduce to you Sophia. She's going to do the art class. Let's get started.
I am so excited that you guys are watching this and joining me for our art class today. So we are going to cover some basic introduction skills to drawing with pencil. And these are super applicable to anything you're going to do in art. We're going to talk about shape, how to make it look three-dimensional, values, lighting. So whether you're drawing in pencil or pastel or painting or charcoal, all of these skills are going to apply to what you're doing. So first, let's talk about the pencils. Very fun. So if you've never drawn before and you don't have your own... Oh yes, come, get the close-up. See these little numbers down here? There's B's and there's H's. So we're gonna go over that because some of you might have never taken an art class before and you go, why are there pencils with numbers on them? So everybody's heard of an HB pencil, typically, and this is your standard run-of-the-mill pencil. So if you are at home with a pencil from the hardware store with a good pink eraser on the end, you have an HB pencil. Now, art pencils, they go down to 8B and up to 4H. And what that means is HB is kind of like the middle. Think of it like the middle. And it'll go 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7B, 8B. Okay, I won't bore you. But basically, the higher the number, the darker it is. So we're going to see that applied and how you get those really dark darks when you're drawing. And then the H's, they get lighter as the number goes up. And for those of you who already have some art background, it means the H's, they have harder lead, and the B's, they have softer lead. Okay, so what we're gonna do is take whatever pencil you have. If you have an entire set, I like to start with an HB pencil. Handy dandy eraser. Pencil is very forgiving, thanks to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to first explore what our pencil can do. And how we do that is something called the Denman 9-step value scale. And this is just a simple tool to show that you can get 9 different values from any pencil. So your black in any pencil might not be totally black, but you want to discover what's the darkest shade you can make with your pencil, up to the very lightest where there's white of the paper. So how we're going to discover that, so you're going to take your pencil and you're going to draw a rectangle. And we're going to draw 9 boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I made it too short. And it doesn't have to be this big. So in 1, you're going to start with the darkest. So because mine is so big, it would take me a very long time to shade all of this in to demonstrate. But basically you want to make your darkest dark, and now you've discovered, okay, this is the darkest my pencil's gonna go. And then you're gonna go and shade in, trying to get 9 different values out of a single pencil. So you might notice I've got my pencil on the side for creating the shading. It's going to take you a long time if you draw straight up and down and just use the lead or the tip of the lead, because you're going to get lines. So use the side of your pencil to get that nice flat surface to cover an area more quickly. And I'm getting lighter and lighter, and what I can do is just go all the way over to the lightest it will go, and then say, okay, if that's the lightest, this could be a little bit darker. That could be a little bit darker. And kind of find those gradual steps until it goes as black as it will go. And basically we're just having fun, exploring what the pencil is capable of, because this is going to tell you what your possibilities are later in the lesson. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with that. So this pencil, which is an HB, of course white or extremely light, to this black. Now just to demonstrate, I'm going to grab my H8B pencil, which is the darkest pencil, and I'll just show you how much darker that is in comparison. So it's really nice to come back and create some really deep shadows, and that's going to help create depth in your image later on, almost like a charcoal effect. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum is the 4H pencil. So this is your hardest lead. And if I push as hard as I possibly can, I still get quite dark, but nowhere near the HB or the 8. And the lightest is very light. So another way you can do this is simply by drawing a line. So I'm going to go back to my HB pencil, and I'm going to start really light, and I'm gradually pushing harder and harder with the lead. And the reason this is a great exercise is it's going to help you develop the muscle memory for pressure control, because a lot of shading and what we're going to do, it comes not only from hand-eye coordination, but also the muscle memory of how hard to press. So you can just draw a few lines trying to mimic these squares. So I'm going light, kind of medium pressure to 3/4 pressure, to really pushing as hard as I can. Or a fun way is you can start the opposite direction. Go as hard as you can, medium, lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, so this is just a fun example you can do with any of your art tools to see, what is possible with that tool. But we're going to move on from that to drawing shapes, very exciting shapes. So a shape is just a line drawing. Basically, it's an outline. And we've got our basic shapes, so a circle, cube, cylinder, cone, and pyramid. Now, this is a great place to start. So depending on how old you might be, what your drawing experience is, we're going to start here. And based on where you want to take it, we're going to make them three-dimensional. So back to here, drawing the circle, which is the hardest thing. So you can always trace a circle. But we're going to just draw a basic circle and not worry if it's perfect. Okay, everybody got that? Now we'll move on to the cube. So how I draw the cube is you're first going to draw a square. If it ends up being a rectangle, we will not fault you. And now how to make it three-dimensional into a cube is you're going to pick 3 corners. And typically they're going to go up, but it doesn't matter, they could go down. But for the sake of copying what's over there, you're going to take these 3 corners and you're going to draw 3 lines coming out from the corners. Now to make it realistic, the trick is to have them all parallel to each other, meaning they go out at the same angle and the same distance. So they're all about 1 inch out from the corners. And then you just connect those. And you have a cube. Or if you want to be creative, you have a fish tank. So you'll also notice that this line here and this line here will be the same length as this line. If they're not, you're getting into perspective, which is a whole other topic. Okay, and then for the cylinder, I like to start with the oval on the top and then drawing 2 parallel lines down from the sides. And the trick about it is most people want to draw a flat line at the bottom, but you can see here, the cylinder is rounded on the bottom or on the bottom here, like on the top. So we're going to go parallel to that curve as best as we can. Okay, we have a cylinder. It's very wonky, that's okay. Drawing sideways is more difficult than I thought. Okay, next is the cone. So we're just going to draw 2 lines of a triangle and give the bottom a nice round shape. Cone. And pyramid, I like to draw the bottom first. Oops. And then we're going to connect them like that. Okay, so those of you following along, you now have 5 very beautiful shapes on your paper. So, how to shade them and make them look 3-dimensional brings us to our light experiment. It's very exciting. Okay, so what I love about drawing is that you can take that pencil, which is super simple, and create entire universes with it. You can create worlds, and you can just let your imagination run wild. So how to make it look realistic and to understand the relationships of things all comes down to light. Oh. Okay. So we've got our basic shapes here. We've got, of course, our sphere, our cube, which is really a rectangle here, our cylinder, cone, and a teeny tiny pyramid. Now, what I want to demonstrate is how light works. So, I'm sure you can all understand. This is our light. Oh, and it's coming down and hitting our sphere. So what that does to our eye is that we see highlights, we see middle tones, we see shadows, and we even see what's called the cast shadow and reflected light, which we're going to get into. So the highlight is, of course, I don't know if where I'm pointing is where you guys see the highlight, but here is the brightest spot. Now what that tells you is it is a direct reflection of your light source. So this tells us our light is, of course, coming from, your perspective, above and to the left. And as the form goes around in space, it's going to get darker and darker and darker and darker and darker, which you probably see. So a super exaggerated example is if I bring this up here and you can see it get darker. Now what's super fun about this, which is why it's on white, is that we have something called reflected light. So even though this is the brightest and this is the darkest, you might still see along here some lighter areas. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. It's usually around the rim of the object that you're drawing, and it's basically meaning these lights are bouncing off the white and hitting that. Now, once you go around and you've got your reflected light, we get to play with cast shadow. So everybody sees the shadow on the page. Of course, the brighter the light source, the more intense the shadow. But watch this, so fun. Okay, so super close light source is gonna make a really big shadow. So this is how we make finger puppets look gigantic when they're projected, is you get the light source really close to the finger puppet. Okay. That was a tangent. If you move the light source further away, the shadow shrinks. And so you can watch it grow. And if the light source moves to the side, the shadow moves to the opposite side. Now this might seem really simple, but it's very fun to play with. And so if you're drawing, maybe you're drawing all 5 of these objects at separate times and you're putting them on the same page and you want to make it look as realistic as possible, you want the same light source from every direction. So if we line them all up and we have one light source, which is the most simple, rather than having 5 light sources like we have here, but you can see all the shadows are going in the same direction. Or if I move the light over here, all the shadows move. So for those of you who have experience drawing, been drawing for a long time, and sometimes your picture just doesn't look quite cohesive enough, take a look at your light source. Okay, so that's the sphere. Now, before I get into the others, let's translate that into drawing. Okay, so super quick. Wow, been 15 minutes already. Okay, where's my sharpener? So, what you want to do is you want to, again, go on the side of the pencil. And we're going to pretend our light source is coming from here. So the light is going wee in these directions. So that tells me right here is going to be the brightest, and over here is going to be the darkest. So you can just go ahead and lay down some first layer of shading kind of all over the circle. And then as you go around and around, you're going to make it darker and darker, and you're just going to go over top and add layer by layer. Now, I didn't know how long this would take, so I'm just demonstrating very quickly while we will look at the final examples over there. So basically, you want to make it darker and darker the further you get from the highlight. Now down here, if you shade it all with the same value as this dark area, for instance, if you do that, when you are done your shading, take your eraser and add some of that reflected light back in. Okay, this is a very, very basic example, but we'll come over here and you'll see what happens when you develop it further. I took some darker pencils and I went in and I made it even darker, got some reflected light down here. Now with the other shapes, can you guess where the light source is on these ones? So the light source here would be coming straight from the top. Whereas over here, we've got this being the darkest, this being the middle, and that being the lightest. So the light does have to come from above, but it's kind of coming from the left in order to make this the darkest. And then with your three rounded shapes, the rounded effect is why you have the reflected light. So in the cylinder, the reflected light is over here. In the cone, the reflected light is over here. And in all three of these, the light source is coming from the same place, which would be this way. And so that's why away from the light is the darkest, and you can have fun shading those shapes at home. So not only do I want to talk about shading shapes, we have the example of all that up there, which we can post in the comment feed, this image. But how do you take it and draw other things with these skills? So what I thought would be really fun is drawing block letters. So I just grabbed these off the internet. You can get some examples of block letters, print them and trace them, or print the block letters and make them 3D. Depends on just what your skill level is. Or you can draw the whole thing yourself. So, let's start with one letter. Let's do an A. So drawing the top, coming down. Okay, so here is an A. Now how do we make it three-dimensional? Well, we want to think about the cube and what you had to do. So we came out from the corners in the same direction at the same angle. So if we want to do that here, I'm going to come down and to the left out of all of these corners. And then you just connect them. Oh, whoops, there we go. And then also, this would also be shaded as if this corner and this corner were coming down from the left. But just to shade them, again, you can come back to the edge of your pencil and just add some shading. And it doesn't matter which direction you shade in. You can shade up and down, on a diagonal, side to side. It's your drawing. Do what you want. Okay. And you notice I shade in the middle because that's going down too. Ta-da! You have now drawn a three-dimensional letter. Woohoo!
The most beautiful A I've ever seen.
It stands for Artrageous. Okay, so where things get a bit tricky is all those curvy letters. So let's take an S, the curviest of all. So for this one, you want to draw a small loop, a big loop, and then you come up, and then you're going to draw the flat edge, and you're going to go back around and close it up. Okay, so now we don't have a lot of points to draw from. We do have this one, and this one, and this one, if we're shading it in the same direction as the A. So then how you do the rest of it is you kind of scoop and connect it to wherever it connects to. And we'll close that one off. And then this one, you're gonna scoop under and up to the fattest part of the S at the bottom. Now for over here, it's a bit tricky. I mean, you can draw from the edge at the top up here a flat line and go this way and then scoop it into the S. Pretty similar to where you end this side. See how this ends here, that ends there. So that gives you that three-dimensional shape. And then I'll shade it just so you can see. Okay. And you can make this as dark as you want or as lightly shaded as you want. And the darker you're gonna shade this, the more the letter's gonna pop. So if I took my darkest pencil and I went back over here and shaded all that in quite a lot, it's going to be a little bit more eye-catching, have a little bit more pop to it, and some more depth. So what I mean by that is it's going to make the A look like it's coming further off of the page. Also, you can have a variety in your shading. So you can have it really dark and then go to light or vice versa. So you can just experiment and play around with it and have fun. So some quick tips on shading is you don't want to use the tip of the pencil because what you get is like these liney gaps. So you don't want to shade like this because what happens is if you go over it, even if you go over it really smoothly, it creates to the eye these lines and it's gonna look less realistic. Perfectly good to do that, but it's just gonna look less realistic. So trying to use the side of the pencil and shade as evenly as you can. This is coming back to the pressure control, and that's gonna develop over time. You're not gonna start like this. It's gonna be something you gradually practice and get better at. Do we have any questions on the great?
Nope, not
Facebook?
currently, just
Okay.
being able to see, so that's why I'm a lot closer to you.
Okay, we've covered some block letters. Now, one thing is that all of these block letters are coming up off the page, but they can go in any direction you want. So, one of the hardest letters I think to do is a G because it has so much going on. So I drew 4 examples of G with 4 different light sources to give you some ideas. This one is going up and back. This one is going down to the left, like what we drew there. This one is coming down to the right, and this one is coming up to the right. So that's just going to change the way you draw those angles coming out of the corners. And so these ones all go down, and all the angles will match whichever your light source is. Okay, it's been a lot of information. You guys are doing great. So the fun project that we're hoping you will do at home and share with us is creating a fun word, whether it's your name, your favorite word, your favorite number, whatever it is, drawing it in these 3-dimensional letters, and shading it. And you can be as creative as you like. So you can stick with pencil at first, you can add color, you could do it in felt pen, and I've started my own, which, ta-da! So I just started this one. So I did my block letters, I made all the light go down and to the left, and then shaded that in, and now I'm gonna come back in and decorate them with fun Zentangle patterns. You could decorate them with words, leopard spots, giraffe spots, tiger stripes, whatever you feel inspired to do, and share it on our Artrageous Facebook page. So, thank you.
Yay!
Stay tuned for next week. We're going to do even more drawing lessons. They're going to be super fun. So if you think of questions, if you think of topics, if you think of a type of drawing material that you want to know more about, let us know.
Sounds great, Sophia. Perfect! Great job, everyone. We can't wait to see what you got. So make sure you share your art with us on our Facebook page. See you tomorrow.